Hello, Dr. Dolly. I would be interested in having you talk on your podcast about using a revocable trust as the beneficiary for an IRA or a 401k. I know there are issues with losing some of the tax benefits unless the trust is set up correctly, but I don't really know what to ask for or look for when I go in to get a trust set up. So wondering if you could talk about what some of the pros and cons are to doing that. In other words, in using a trust as a beneficiary, and maybe what I should look for when I have it done.
So basically, this question is all about putting a revocable trust as your beneficiary in a retirement account, right? So if you die and this is stretched through, it then pays out to the trust, or even it could pay out, in the event of your death. The problem is you can't actually do that with a revocable trust. Remember the difference between a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust. A revocable trust is for estate planning. It doesn't provide any asset protection. And an irrevocable trust is primarily for asset protection because it basically takes those assets out of your estate. And it turns out, although it's complicated, you can name a trust as the beneficiary of your IRA, but it can't be a revocable trust. It has to be an irrevocable trust. So the easy answer to this question is you just can't do it. But if you're willing to have it be an irrevocable trust, you can do it. Michael Kitchis has a nice summary of some of the reasons why you might want to do this and some of the reasons and complications of doing it. But there's a few things that some boxes you have to check if you want to be name a trust as a beneficiary of a retirement account. First, it has to be a valid trust under state law. It has to be irrevocable or become irrevocable upon the death of the original IRA owner. And the trust beneficiaries must be eligible to be beneficiaries themselves. So you can't name something that wouldn't be eligible to be a beneficiary. And then, of course, you have to provide a copy of the trust documentation to the IRA custodian by October 31st of the year following the year of the IRA owner's death. Okay, so there's a number of hoops to drop through. This article, Kitchis calls qualifying a see-through trust as an IRA designated beneficiary, conduit, or accumulation, goes into all kinds of detail. I highly recommend it if you're considering doing this. Honestly, though, it sounds like a big hassle. I mean, it may be better to just leave the beneficiary as your heirs themselves. You need to have a really good reason to try to insert a trust in here because it's going to cost you some money. And in fact, it may cost them some money. The reason why is if it is taxable to the trust tax rates apply, not the heirs' tax rates. And trust tax rates are pretty much the top tax rate after just a few $1,000s each year. And so you really don't want anything taxed at a trust's tax rate. And so realize that if you might want to do this for some complicated estate planning reason, it's probably going to cost you some money in taxes to do it. If you want your questions answered by the White Coat Investor, record your question at whitecoatinvestor.com/YQA or click the link in the description.
My dad, your host, Dr. Dolly, is a practicing emergency physician, blogger, author, and podcaster. He is not a licensed accountant, attorney, or financial advisor, so this podcast is for your entertainment and information only and should not be considered official, personalized financial advice.